Thank you very much. Uh, Thank you again for having me here. Today I want to talk about something a bit more practical in the framework of regulatory, and that's 5 insights from becoming a regulated CASP that you may not find in the MiCAR text. Uh, First of all, let me introduce myself. As already mentioned, my name is Georg Harer. I'm one of the managing directors of Bybit EU and also of Bybit Payments, and I'm also the head of legal and compliance for the EU. In case you haven't heard about Bybit, Bybit is a global crypto exchange founded in 2018. We are worldwide the number 2 in terms of trading volume, with currently over 76 million users, which is very bad to read, but we have on average about 36 billion daily trading volume, and we already had all-time highs of over 100 billion trading volume within 24 hours. As you can see, by 195 countries, we're basically active around the globe, and also very customer-oriented and over 24/7 customer supported in many of our market languages. But important to know, there's not just Bybit in global brand. Since this year is also Bybit EU, and I think it's very important for me personally, but also, of course, for Vienna and for the scene, because Bybit was the first international exchange to get the MiCAR license in Vienna. I'm not sure how much you know about MiCAR or MiCAR. It's the Markets in Crypto Assets regulation and the first EU-wide framework, where for the first time the see you could apply for one license in one country, and then serve the whole market from the country you got the license. For us, it was Austria, and with this MiCAR license, we are the so-called CASP, Crypto Asset Service Provider. We started basically a year ago with the project, got our license in May 2025. Are live with Bybit EU since 1st of July 2025. And as somebody who has worked as a lawyer for 10 years, has spent a lot of time in MiCAR and the related regulations, I thought now a year later, I want to use the chance and share some insights that you may not find in the media text. Also, as somebody who is working for a very big player, I sort of want to dedicate this presentation and also the Q&A later on to any students here. Do we have any students here? No? Good. One, students, maybe some founders, people in startups, because I do believe and also this review of Bybit, that we are here for the scene. And while of course big players are always dominating the media presence and the discussions, we do need innovative ideas, new players to shape the market in the future. So please feel free also to ask afterwards or approach me if you have any questions. First insight was the right balance of regulation and PDC. From our own experience, but also from other people who have worked in the scene, when you start becoming a regulated crypto as a service provider, or to see broader, any other regulated fintech, you're faced with the challenge that you want to do everything right and everything at the same time. So you see people who, for example, start having a perfect prototype that they sell to investor, and then basically the investor says, well, here's the money, go live. And then they realize, well, we don't have a team and we don't have the governance and policies to even be able to apply for the license. You may have the other way around, that you say, okay, I studied MiCAR very well. I know all the regulations. I did all the policies. I hand in the application. But then when it comes to, well, how do you actually handle your safeguarding? How do you handle how is the trading engine working? People, who is actually looking over your tech stack? What happens in case of customer complaints? What happens if there's a security incident? You may realize, well, I have the perfect regulations and governance structures in place, but I have not thought of the team that I will need to run this company. So unfortunately, there is not one solution that fits it all. But if you're ever in the situation of starting up a crypto asset service provider, always keep this in mind. You will always need the tech arm, the people arm, and the governance arm to be successful in applying for a license, but also then launch the product and bring a successful product to the market. Number two, MiCAR is not the final boss. What do I mean by this? We always talk about MiCAR, the MiCAR license, how big of a milestone it was to get the MiCAR license. But if you ask me, and I want to show you a picture, MiCAR was actually not the hardest part. So of course, MiCAR is not easy. There is a lot of new things, but then you have DORA and so-called FMBVA. DORA is the Digital Operations and Resilience Act. In a nutshell, that's everything about IT security. And the FMBVA is basically the AML Act. And while they're technically not part of MiCAR, as soon as you have the license, you have to comply with those two acts. And of course, the regulator looks very closely whether you're ready with this. So for DORA, I think at least half of our policies are related to DORA, meaning IT security and related topics. And of the other half, probably more than a half, so overall, more than 70% of the 75% of our policies and procedures are related either to anti-money laundering or DORA IT security. But, that's just the legal part. And I'm not sure if there's any other crypto asset service provider in the room that confirm this. Some trivial things may actually be much harder. And I would say the hardest thing for us, and I think we're not the only ones, was actually getting a bank account, which may sound trivial because all of us just go to the bank and open up a bank account. But as soon as you have, and I would say you don't even have to become a crypto asset service provider, if you just have crypto somewhere in your name or business model, 90% of the banks will reject you, or at least put you through a very, very thorough onboarding process. And very often there's also a sort of a chicken and egg problem. Of course, you need a bank account just for simple operations, but also for safeguarding, for keeping safe your clients' funds. And it's also a requirement of getting the license. On the other hand, banks don't want to give you accounts or if they're even willing to work with the crypto company, they may say, well, we give you an account once you're regulated. So this is, I would say, as I said, I started 1 year ago. We started on the first day, and it took us almost as long to get just a simple bank account in the EU than it took us to get the actual license. Setting up a CASP is still a journey into the unknown. I know we were one of the first, the first international exchange, the second in Austria to get the MiCAR license. But I would say still up to this date, not everything is set into stone. It starts with this, my first point, mixing regulation, tech people, all the way up to interpreting the legal text, finding out that there are still discrepancies between the regular fintech regulations like PSD or MiFID and MiCAR. And you will have to prepare yourself that not everything can be solved on the spot, and a lot of things will have to be found out in the process. But the good news is you're also not alone. Every other player is facing the same situation. The regulator is facing the same situation. And probably also your advisors are facing the same situation. So just because you don't know what to do doesn't mean that you didn't do your job well, because simply just in many ways no. Number four, crypto is global, regulation is not. So we have a MiCAR license. We are Bybit EU, based here in Vienna. Um, from With this MiCAR license here in Vienna, we can serve the entire European markets. That's already a fair share of people, but still far from what you could consider the global market. And even if you consider that the European market, if you look at the economy, is one of the strongest in the world, in crypto, it's unfortunately relatively unimportant still. I hope, also as an outspoken pro-European, that this may change in maybe 5-10 years. But as of this date, for example, we have to face that Euro and also the EU regulation are not really relevant to what happens on the top level game of crypto. One of the examples, for example, is USDT. I don't know if you are following the controversies that USDT is without a doubt the most important stable coin. It's denominated in US dollar, and it's also not MiCA regulated. So of course you can't offer it in the EU that easily. But we have this issue for over a year. Has it changed the dominance of USDT on the global market? No. Then you have the second biggest stable coin, USDC, which is by now a MiCA license. So also this is for Bybit EU our main stable coin, because we can rightfully say it's legal to offer it in the EU, but still euro denominated. You may say now, sure, but there's euro stable coin. Correct. There are euro stable coins, but people don't come to your platform just to buy euro. They want to buy crypto. And once you swap fiat currency or stable coin into crypto, you always will make step, or most of the times, via US dollar. So this is a big issue. The second big issue, which is actually one of the fascinating things of crypto, is code is law. I'm pretty sure all of you have heard this. And for example, I get asked very often, what would happen if the EU was forbidding Bitcoin? Well, the answer is nothing, because Bitcoin is just a technical concept. And as long as some people use it, and maybe 5 people in a remote village with just a local area network, Bitcoin will work. And in many ways, you see that projects are just put out there just because code is there and they student, and they don't wait for the EU or Europe to adjust their legislation more before they put out the code. The projects, they don't look at MiCA or other regulations, which category it falls into. This brings me to the third point: know your allies and how to communicate with them. Again, we are all in the same boat, meaning all the players, all the people that were working on projects, but also all the regulators. So I think everybody wants to find a solution. There's no clear solution in sight yet, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't, find allies and try to work on a solution. And last but not least, this is something that personally I find quite a pity. You remember the meme with the bigger and bigger regulations? There's just unfortunately so many things that you need to have in place to have a regulated company. So even if you have the greatest idea, even if you and your 3 friends have the perfect tech prototype, remember inside number 1, the tech stack, you still will need many things, be it systems, be it tools, but also I would doubt that anybody, even very professional players, are able to set up a regulated entity without any external advice. And as I said, this is very unfortunate because there may be very great ideas which work on a tech basis, but we don't have the funding in place for example, lawyers, tax advisors that don't have the funding to invest into tools which help them, for example, to comply with DORA, to comply with the ENL laws. But it's the unfortunate truth that if you're in a situation of setting up a fintech, and even if you have your product and tech already in place, this will be something you should consider before moving on. Yes, those were my 5 insights. As I said, I also wanted to dedicate some time to questions, and of course, if there's any other um, crypto player who also wants to share their insights, please feel free. Thank you very much. I'm wondering if there is kind of an initiative between all the exchanges. I mean, obvious somehow Vienna is a factor, right? And in regards to the Euro stablecoins, for example, we have now one regulated stablecoin in Euro. The Euro, I think it's from Mobility. Yeah. And I'm thinking maybe there's kind of a mechanism every one of you could use, like, you know, staking or something, to foster the acceptance of the Euro system. Yeah, no, we're actually working on this. It even goes a step further. So, for example, Bybit is is a global channel, very keen on track global markets. But for companies that don't use stablecoin, but with euro, like Poland, Hungary, have much more wallets. We are working with also very with volatility. Um, and every month that there will be like a USDT for euro, that's actually European project. I also have to say it was my hopes initially that the digital euro would be something like more widely accepted real estate of mine. Unfortunately, doesn't look like it will be that. But I agree with you. We need standard a euro USDT. That's just industry standard. But this time, I'm not sure which one will be it. Yeah. Okay, I just changed it on your or maybe you want the microphone? Mic? From your point of view, do you believe that a better law enforcement and a unified enforcement in the European Union can enhance the stock exchange? You mean law enforcement in terms of criminal law or in general also regulatory law? Regarding the cryptos. Yeah. Like the MiCAR, like a better law enforcement, which can be unified in the whole Europe. Um, in general, yes, because as I said, crypto is global and it doesn't make sense to enforce or even regulate crypto different, let's say, in Hungary than in Austria. But also knowing European law, I know especially law enforcement, be it civil, administrative, or criminal, is still very much localized. And I also don't see this changing because crypto may be big, but it's not big enough to change the foundation of the European Union. But what I definitely see is, we still have the local regulators like FMA. We see that they align on the European level, at least for the crypto regulations, how to enforce them. They educate themselves. They try to create a level playing field. So at least in the regulatory law sector, I see it already happening. But yeah, there's of course still a little ways to go. Thank you. I don't remember more Korean there was like now that we are having like banks like using like do you think if there is like if you're interest on the exchanges to start So you started on Bybit EU with the license that you look at Bybit Global platform. You see that um, we already have financial instruments there. And it's not a big secret that we're trying to offer all the products we're offering on the global level, also the EU level. Unfortunately, MiCAR only governs crypto, even financial instruments are um, based on crypto or tokenized. Um, so all I can say at this point is stay tuned. Um, and we're looking forward to hopefully soon also offering everything that we offer on that global platform here in the EU, and also expect that all the other players that are currently working on setting up European well, this global and also maybe to expand it, possibly along your customer, for example, even since the Revolut, we saw those fintechs are starting out in the payments sector, whether it's funding financial instruments, and now also over crypto. What I see with Bybit, but also all the other big crypto exchanges, they started out with crypto and are moving basically from that direction to the traditional financial market and the payment sector. So I see I think also supported by one of the use cases that maybe in 10 years for the retail customer, there is no difference between a crypto exchange and a bank because the banks will hold crypto and the crypto exchange will hold payment wallets. Um, I think I'm not sure if anybody publishes if you can you know yes, we have. I see. Yes, we have. I usually confirm we have like for the music license, and there was this uncertainty because it was usually yesterday the Friday that we published it, so it's brand news.
Thanks, Georg. That was very insightful.
Great speech. Thank you.
Thank you.
So,